Project Planning Overview. We all plan and execute projects on a daily basis, whether you realize it or not. You might be planning a birthday party, maybe you're landscaping your garden, or planning a vacation. Those are all projects. To give us an idea of the different elements that go into a project, let's use making breakfast as an example, because I think that's something everyone can connect with. Our first step is to plan our project. So we need to consider a variety of informational elements. When you're planning breakfast, chances are you run through the details of planning without much thought because you've done it so many times that it's just second nature. The same thing will come into play in the workplace regarding a lot of the details for project management in the workplace because you'll have done them over time repeatedly. As far as breakfast is concerned, before you even get going, you're already thinking how many people will be there to eat breakfast? What kinds of foods do we already have? Do we have time for a big breakfast, or do I need to have something on the go? What dietary restrictions need to be considered? Did we remember to wash dishes last night? Which fruit sounds better this morning? Are the nectarines still good? Do I need to sign anything for the kids, and what lunch items are available? And you start branching out into a variety of different topics. Branching out is something that happens in the workplace too, and it can negatively affect the completion of a project. So by planning your project, you get a much more accurate result. Our first step, whether at home, in the workplace, and whether your workplace is an office or a factory or whatever, the steps in project planning are the same. And our first step is purpose. Making breakfast, our purpose is to feed ourselves and our family because we're hungry. Goals and objectives are second. Our objective and our goal is to make a healthy breakfast that fills the family's tummies and gives everyone energy to start their day. Third on our list is success criteria. How will we know that we've made a good breakfast? Well, the meal presented will be well balanced and the family will like what was prepared. Project context is how does the current project fit within the bigger picture? So in this case, the food that we're cooking for breakfast has been reviewed to make sure that it's not a repeat of what else is being cooked for the day, and it's been reviewed to make sure that we're not using items that were planned for use later in the day. So we have to look at that bigger picture, and as a manager it's important that you keep that bigger picture in place at all times. Project dependencies. What items are dependent on the success of our project? So project context is the bigger picture. Project dependencies is looking at that next level. So the next level is being able to perform effectively at work and school. So the good breakfast will help that area be successful. Scope specifications and out of scope specifications. In a project, it's easy for project creep to happen. Hey, while you're doing that, would you also, could I get you to change this and do this, this, and this as well, or instead? Making a clear delineation as to what is in your project and not in your project is very important. So within scope specifications, what will we cook? What's within this project? Does within scope include shopping for food? Not in this case. Does it include shopping for pots and pans? No, not at all. So we decide that the scope of the project only includes fixing and serving the meal. And we decide that breakfast will include pancakes and ham, apple slices, and milk. Out of scope specifications come back to that previous project planning brainstorm list. Do I need to sign anything for the kids? What lunch items are available? Those are outside of the scope of fixing breakfast. So we know that we can stay focused on the tasks at hand. Other items that may be out of scope: are you willing to cook bacon and sausage and ham? Are you willing to make French toast for anyone who doesn't want pancakes? So we decide that items on the selected list are the only ones that are going to be cooked. Everything else is out of scope. Assumptions are things that are assumed. For example, you assume that all the items that you're planning to cook are in stock. You assume that the stove works properly. You assume that no one is going to be underfoot and messing with the timeline for project completion. With constraints, you're looking at the limitations that you have to consider as you, in this case, cook breakfast. One of the constraints is that the family has to be out the door in 20 minutes. This means that breakfast must be ready in about 10 minutes. Risks: there are always risks with every project. Risks for breakfast: well, you run the risk of burning food. You run the risk that you won't have breakfast ready in time. You run the risk that you won't cook enough food. So you look at the very most common risks and you determine likely ways to handle that risk. So you've cooked breakfast for the family before. You can pretty much judge what it is that they'll want to eat or how much, and you can cook a small amount over that in case anyone is extra hungry that day. You can make sure that you're not sidetracked with out-of-scope priorities. That way you make sure that the food doesn't burn. So making sure that you've addressed, at least mentally, those issues is important. Stakeholders are the people that are directly related to the project at hand. There are primary stakeholders, and those are the people that are most directly affected. In this case, family members. There are secondary or possibly secondary stakeholders as well, though. Maybe children are meeting friends so they can walk to school, or they're one of the parents takes turns taking kids to school and they need to be ready and out the door at a specific time. The carpool members are stakeholders because making sure that you have your project completed in a timely manner is important to them as well. Recommended project approach. It's important to look at a project from multiple viewpoints and determine which viewpoint or which action path is going to be best for that specific project. And it can change depending upon the specifications within that project. Taking breakfast as still our example, maybe the primary household person who's fixing breakfast needs to be to work early. So they are doing microwave sandwiches so that people can grab and go and be out the door faster. Or maybe each person is given money so they can purchase breakfast items at school and work. Heck, maybe you've had a really rough week and you're canceling school and work for the day, having an absolutely lazy day with a wonderful relaxing breakfast as the decision. Each option will be evaluated and the best choice determined. Budgeting is next on our list, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Do the items that you chose fit into your weekly cooking budget? Are you using up an item that you plan to use later in the week, so you're going to need to purchase more of that item? And does your budget allow for variance? How much are you planning to spend for the breakfast? And our last step is project scope change. This comes into play when one or more of the items in the assumption area doesn't play out as expected. Maybe you're out of ham, so you decide to cook sausage, but you have to make that decision. You could make it by yourself and just move forward, but the idea of a successful project is to get buy-in from primary stakeholders so that everyone is on the same page, in agreement, and ready to move forward. So you get that buy-in from the family members. Hey, I'm out of ham. You guys okay with sausage? Once you receive approval, you're ready to begin implementation.